We are up and going, and I want to introduce everybody this evening to Matt Wiley. He is the Alaskan Viking. Obviously, he's from Alaska and a trapper. We're going to chat about what it's like to be in Alaska, and we're going to chat about his incredible YouTube site that he's got going on. Matt, welcome to the show.
Awesome. How you doing? Rich, it's good to be on here talking to you. I've watched, all your videos, of course, and absolutely glad to be here.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. It's a pleasure. We've had a very warm year this year. Like, it has not been a typical weather. I think we only got down to below minus 30 once so far, and minus 30 would be about 22 below zero or something like that Fahrenheit.
Yeah, we've had about the same. It's been unusually warm. We hit 30 below back in November for like 2 days, and that was it.
Yeah.
And
whereabouts are you in Alaska?
I live 100 miles south of Fairbanks, a little town called Delta Junction, Alaska. Kind of a geographical oddity. It's 100 miles from everywhere.
So for those of us that don't know much about the map of Alaska, where does that put you? Are you coastal or are you inland?
Almost smack dab in the interior.
Okay, in the middle, in the interior.
Yep.
Alaska is a big place, so that is a far ways from everywhere.
Pretty much. It is.
So your average year, do you have a lot of snow?
The last few years we've had great snow conditions. I think we're looking at about 3 feet right now. But the problem here is we get so much wind that your snow it drifts a lot, and so the snowpack is really you can't count on it being in one place for very long. But most places we got about 3 feet.
Okay, and your country then, is it open? Is it heavily timbered? What's it look like?
It's a little bit of both. If you go south of Delta, you run into a lot of tundra. North of where I live, I've got my Martin line, which is all old growth forest, really heavily, huge spruce trees. So it depends on what direction you go.
Okay, those huge spruce, they be Sitka?
They're white spruce, I believe.
Sitka, okay. Yeah.
Sitka, white spruce, yeah.
Yep. So are you native to Alaska?
I am not. I've lived here for about 19 years. I'm originally from Montana.
Oh, really? Where in Montana?
Missoula.
Oh, okay, good. I know the country.
Do you really?
Oh yeah.
Well, that's cool.
We've had a fair bit of fun in Montana. And
Montana's a beautiful place.
It is. It's crazy right now with what's going on. I mean, places like Wyoming and Montana and Texas and that. I mean, they're wonderful because of their very staunch conservative backgrounds and
Mm-hmm.
The belief that people should know what to do with their own money, and yet all those people that are moving from California to those places, they're bringing all their bad habits with them.
That is, you know what? You hit the nail on the head on that, Rich. That is exactly what's going on, especially in Montana, from what I've seen.
We have the same thing happening in Canada. Like, we have stuff going on from, we're in Alberta out west, and people come from the east, and they bring their crappy politics with them. I don't know what it's all about, man. But enough about politics. What what drove you to or what made you move to Alaska?
So I graduated high school, and I've been in love with Alaska ever since I can remember seeing pictures as a kid, and I've always wanted to come here, and so I had the opportunity. I graduated high school, jumped on a plane, grabbed my guns, my clothes, and got a job working at the local grocery store as a meat cutter, and I've been cutting meat for 19 years now.
No kidding.
Nope.
Oh, that is really cool. That's really cool. I like it when people have trades. That's important. I love that meme on the internet where it talks about the one guy's going to school and he's running up all these debts, and he sneers at the guy who's working at the lineman working outside his house, and then the final thing in the meme is John just cut off, disconnected Bill's power, you know, for lack of payment.
There's a lot of truth to that. I'm definitely fortunate, and I love my job. I love cutting meat, and I can't picture myself doing anything else besides trapping for a living.
How many people live in Alaska?
Man, I'm not 100% sure on that. It's I remember I can't give you a defined answer on that. I'm not 100% sure.
Most are like you, though, they've moved there for the life.
Yeah, there's actually in the last few years, there's been pretty decent influx of people moving to Alaska, seeking, you know, the wilderness and the lifestyle. And, you know, you can't blame them. Alaska's a beautiful place.
I noticed, though, you've had a couple Democrats pop up in offices.
I don't want to talk about
it. I had to.
Yep. Nope. I don't lay claim to any of them.
So explain to me, you have kind of a first come, first serve honor system on your trap lines. How does that work?
Sometimes it works great, and sometimes it does not work at all. I really wish our laws were a little different on that, but you know, everybody has the right to go trapping, and as long as they don't touch your stuff, they can trap wherever they want, which, you know, creates a lot of over trapping and problems, in my opinion.
That was exactly why, like, Alberta has all registered trap lines, and that was set up like in 1925 or 1905, something like that, long time ago. It surprised me how long ago, but the reason was because anything near a city center or whatever was getting over trapped, and there was the problems caused with it. So they divided it all up into registered trap lines, and you could have a registered trap line, but you had to trap there. And so that meant that the entire province got utilized, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We've had it well over 100 years of this going on, so it worked well. But we have a lot of folks from Alaska that contact us about how the registered system works and that. And nobody ever gives me a really good answer. Like, I mean, how often do you have problems? You said you have a marten line up north.
Yeah, I've had problems with, you know, anybody sees a trail on Google Earth and it's automatically theirs. And every year, you know, people come up and try to run my line, and I, you know, have to, hey man, I've been here for 18 years, and it's not your trap line, it's mine. And most of the time they'll be like, oh, okay, you know, and pick up their stuff and go. But every once in a while you'll get the stubborn guy says, well, you know, I'm not breaking the law. And well, technically you're not, but you know, you are to respect other trappers, and I would never do that to anybody else. And so I expect, you know, fair treatment in return, but it doesn't always happen that way.
Well, and I mean, they're turning, you know, your hard work into their profit.
Yeah. And that happened, what was it, 4 years ago or so. I let my marten line sit for a year, just kind of let it, you know, rejuvenate a little bit. And I found out the next year when I went to go trap it, that a guy ran it last year and totally just decimated the marten population.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he hurt it bad, and I'm still trying to recover from that. It's really easy to overtrap marten.
It can be, yeah, depending on the area. How big of an area would your marten line be?
It's about 38 miles.
Oh, okay, yeah. That would be easy because you'd be just trapping right alongside that line, your trail,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, of
Yep.
38 miles. Yeah. That would be pretty easy for sure. So do you have other lines then? That's your marten line?
I do. So I've got my marten line that I pretty much just trap marten, and then I actually have I live just next to Fort Greely, Alaska, which is a missile defense, and they have military land that you can register to go trap on. And I have a big chunk of property registered with them that I trap, mostly coyotes, fox, lynx, and wolves. And that makes up my second half of my trap line, so to speak.
Oh, okay. So is that pretty much all the species available, or you're just not in an area where there's Wolverine or?
I've caught a few of them, but it's so hit and miss. There's not a good population. It's one of those things. If you catch one, most of the time for me, it's an accidental.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
He wandered into a cat set or something. But
They,
there's not a heavy population of them where I'm at.
yeah, they're pretty big roamers for sure.
Hmm.
How many marten would you catch in a winter?
A good winter is 30 plus
Okay.
or so, and then lynx. It depends on the cycle, on the year, but most of the time you're looking at 20 to 25 lynx, and I can normally catch 15 to 20 coyotes and about a dozen fox and a couple of wolves.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a lot of wolves there.
Where I'm at, no. There's normally a pack of about 4 to 5 that like to run the area, and I normally pick off a couple of them and then leave them alone. And there's other trappers around me, so they go through a gauntlet of stuff. They're pretty smart wolves. They're not the average wolf, I don't think.
Well, it's funny that when you talk about a pack of 4 to 5, and so many people believe that wolves only come in packs of 20 or 30. And when I try and tell them about, there are 2 packs that are touch my trap line or across my trap line during the winter, and the one in the north is usually 4 to 6 animals, and the one in the south is 8 or 9. And one year it was a dozen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that they're just an extended family unit is what they are. And when the time comes, it's the females that have to move on. After
Hmm.
about 2 years, they any of them can disperse, right? But it's the females that are the hardest to get adopted into another pack, because she's
Hmm.
always competition for the breeding alpha, right?
Yeah.
The males
Yeah.
are taken in pretty easy because they're all kind of the soldiers, the fodder for hunting, right?
Yep. Yeah. The warriors. I like that.
I've do you have a particular favorite system for trapping marten? I mean, are you catching them on the ground? You catch them in the trees?
I do kind of a combination of different kinds of sets. I like pole sets. I like using footholds, but at the same time, I stagger everything. I'll put boxes. I don't ever try to put anything on the ground. I try to keep it up in the trees. Just so I've always been told and taught that that's how you catch the more mature marten. If you put stuff on the ground, you tend to catch immature, and females, are more likely to go into those sets. So I try to keep everything in the trees. I use boxes. I use cans. I use newspaper boxes. A whole slew of different types. And I like using the variety method.
So you'd set up all 38 miles at once?
No, what I do is, first run of the year, I'll go in and see what's there first and see where the marten are at. If I'm seeing, mature males, or if I'm seeing, females or immature marten, then I'll kind of leave that alone and move further away and try to target, the mature marten. But I normally just go in and look and see where everything's at. And then that's where I'll go from, okay, I'm going to trap the back half or the middle or the front or whatever, or all of it.
Okay. And how many sets would you set up at any one time?
I try to keep it about, if I'm trapping a section, I'll do about one every half a mile, give or take, pending on where the marten are at.
Right. Right. And so then you'd have 30, 40 sets going at once, or?
Yeah, maybe 15 to 20.
Okay. Do you have check laws there?
No, we do not have check laws. I run, depending on the weather, I like to do it, my marten line at least once a week.
Yeah.
But everything else, like all my canines, I like to run, especially if it's warm, I'll run every other day. If it's, 0 or, -10, I'll run every 3 days and check them, because wolves, they turn green so dang quick. They're such a big animal. They have a hard time cooling off. So I like to check those more frequently.
When you do your wolves, are you doing a bait pile, or are you blind setting?
A little bit of both. I drop a ton of bait, and
Okay.
to get them interested in what's going on. And then once they're in the area, I'll do blind trail sets, piss posts, and then gang set the bait pile.
Yeah, the worst part is they when lots of times when by the time you get them in a snare or whatever, it's already got 20 pounds of fresh meat on board, right? And that's
Yeah, you definitely want to catch them coming in,
yeah,
not
yeah,
going out.
yeah. I had one last year that was that way, and I mean its stomach was enormous. It had 25 pounds on it or whatever. Weighed
Oh,
96 pounds, and I'm sure there was 25 pounds of meat in it.
wow. Wow. How did it look like when you skinned it? Did it have a green belly or?
Yeah, green belly. Yeah,
Ah,
it was really bad green belly, and it didn't show until I tanned it, but I lost two little patches about like that, right low in the groin area there,
yeah,
where the most heat stays for the longest time, right?
yeah, yep.
Do you foothold or do you snare the wolves?
Both,
Both. Are you
both.
allowed
Yeah,
killing snares there?
yeah, yep. However, I like to use a breakaway snare, a cam lock with an S hook that's rated for like I think it's 550 pounds is what it's rated for. Just in case you catch a moose,
Yeah.
he's strong enough to bust it. Even a big wolf, if he took a good run at it, he'd probably break that snare too. But I haven't had any losses yet. But that's definitely a possibility. But I definitely prefer breakaway snares, just so I don't catch moose, or caribou.
Do you then tie off to trees? Do you tie off solid
Yeah.
or you are on drags?
No, I tie up solid, and I use 9 wire as my lead wire with a pigtail swivel in it.
Yep.
And so you wire it up about 6 feet, and then you set your snare so he's pulling down at an angle, so he doesn't have that direct, inline pull with the snare.
Right.
It really takes a lot of strength out of him if he has to pull down instead of just straight out.
Do you use any kill springs?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
You like the big kill spring on it.
I do. I do like the kill springs on.
Okay.
I also use kill springs in my lynx and coyote snares too.
Okay. I don't use it in lynx. Lynx die so easy. It's what the heck? Somebody had sent me a query the other day and sent me over to one of the internet trapping sites, and they were talking about making a snare legal so that they could release lynx. They were allowed to snare bobcat and coyote, but they weren't allowed to snare lynx. I think it was Minnesota or Wyoming, and so they had this law out there, and it was like 5/64 cable, and it had to have this breakaway, and I was like, I don't know how you could make a breakaway light enough to keep a lynx alive.
Yeah, that's a tough one. They don't fight much.
No, and
They don't.
their carotids, especially here in the throat, are so exposed. I
Yeah,
just was doing some video today. I was skinning lynx, and it was just like you couldn't have asked for a better than video than what I had there. I mean, it was like an X-ray. You could see his carotids, and then you could see the how they become when they become occluded. Well, then all the blood that's in the head and that it all pressures up, right? And so all these other veins
builds up.
Yeah, it builds up, and trying to explain to people that that's how a snare kills. It doesn't suffocate, it doesn't strangle, it occludes the veins and the arteries going to the brain or to and from the brain, and it's no different than an MMA fighter putting a sleeper hold on you, and you just slowly gray out and go down. Well, that's what these animals do, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And go ahead.
The only reason I ever use kill springs on cats is all my snares are the same.
Yeah.
I use an 8-inch diameter, and so like coyotes and fox, you never know what's going to come down the trail.
Well, that's exactly it. Yeah. And I love the kill springs on the canines. They're, if you catch them up tight behind the head, then it's over in a hurry. But if they happen to fight and get that down low on the chest and the neck there, it takes a lot more to finish the job.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than pumpkin head on a coyote.
Yeah, I don't. I haven't had that. I mean, I'm using all. Uh, I use a lot of power rams just because they're so simple and fast. And
I've never gotten into those. I'm definitely curious about them though.
yeah, well, you'd want to get all the Wolf Masters, the ones that are wolf
The
size,
big
because then
ones.
they would double up because once again you don't know whether it's a wolf or a coyote coming down the trail. But I mean, I run a bait here on my home quarter, and I got 20 some coyotes off it this year, and I mean it's just one after another, and these are all with 3/64 cable, and they have a breakaway on them for a 265 pounds, and
Hmm.
it's because there's only just coyotes here. There's coyotes, deer, elk, and moose, and so far I've caught 3 deer, 2 elk, and 2 moose, but
Oh wow.
they break away.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
break away. I mean, all my bait is from the butcher shop, and we're
Yeah.
uh, my buddy runs a butcher shop over there in Grovedale, and he, they butcher all the wild game. We still have hunting going on here, and
Yeah.
I just go get it by. I
No, that's
literally
I
get it.
do the exact same thing.
Do you get it by the 14-foot dump trailer load?
I get it by the 50-gallon barrel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got some interesting pictures of. I leave it sit there for a week, and I go there, and it is just humped up full. It's a 7-foot by 14-foot dump trailer, and then they can stretch the cover over top of it, and then I have to drive through town. It's like an hour and a half from my place, and halfway in between us is the city, and I'm driving through, and you have this flock of ravens and whiskey
Following you
jacks.
around.
Yeah. You're quite the gong show. You hate to stop at it's not quite that bad, but I mean, if you stop at a light, there'll be birds sitting on the on the trailer back
Well,
there.
yeah, I'll do the same thing. I'll go grab 7 or 8 barrels and have them in the back of my truck, and leave them there and go to work. And when I come out to leave work, there's ravens all over the back of my truck, and they're pooping on everybody's cars and everybody.
I was just gonna say, like, the side of my trailer, I just got it. It's a Southland trailer, and I just got it this year, and I mean, it looks like awful, like hell right now, because it is just covered in this slurry of raven crap everywhere, right?
The new paint job.
Yeah, it's black with white drool all over it. Looks awful. I had a buddy going down the road. He's dead now, but he was a bear outfitter. And
Mhm.
one of the great things that we do is we sell beaver carcasses to the bear outfitters, right?
Yep.
Every spring they buy huge amounts, and he was making a run for around to the different trappers and that, picking them up, and he had a dump trailer. No, it wasn't a dump trailer, but he had sideboards on a big trailer, and he figured he had over 300 beaver in there, beaver carcasses, right? And of course they're at various levels of decay and that, so it's oozing and it's just
Yeah.
gross, big
Yeah.
bellied and everything. And the RCMP, the police, pulled him over, and the guy says, "You can't do this," and he says, "Why?" And the cop was at a loss for words, and it goes round and round and round. They had him pulled over for better, well, I don't know, a couple of hours, until finally an old supervisor got a hold of Fish and Wildlife. Fish and Wildlife came out and says, "Oh, Greg, yeah, you got your license, yeah, everything. He's an outfitter. This is all legal." And the young cop was just in shock because it was a hot day, and I guess those beaver got so Greg said you could watch their bellies expand, right?
Big old beaver balloons.
Oh yeah, yeah. He said every now and then the wind would change, and he'd see the cop turn green.
Oh, that's too much. That's too much. That's perfect. That's
Oh,
perfect.
it is. It is. So with the lifestyle there, do you have subsistence rights?
Yeah, I do.
You do.
I do subsistence moose and subsistence caribou.
How does that work? Explain this to me.
As long as you're an Alaska resident, you qualify for your subsistence tags, and as long as you fill them out and check them off every year and whatnot, every year you can apply for them.
Okay, so
And
you
it's
do.
all And it's all federal land too for the subsistence. So the game unit managements, it's all set aside, and there's certain areas where you can go for subsistence only. So you can't just wander out your back door and shoot a moose. There's specific areas that you have to hunt in.
Okay, and anybody who's an Alaska resident, if they live in Anchorage,
Yep.
it can, and you have to
And
apply.
it can become quite the show.
Oh, I can imagine. I'm imagining this in my head already. Is it, when you say apply, is it a draw then, or?
No, nope. You just every year for about 2 days. They're like, for example, they're in Delta for 2 days. You go in, give them all your information, and they give you your text.
Really?
Yep.
How long can that continue?
It starts in August, and then there's a break in October, and then it starts back up again, and then I think it ends the end of December. I'm not 100% sure. I really very rarely ever make it to the end.
How long though can this continue on? Like, I mean, that sort of, that level of use of the resources.
Oh man, I don't know. With the population of Alaska, getting bigger and bigger and bigger, you'd think they'd have to do something. But they're watching the herds pretty closely, and they have emergency shutdown orders. So if you go in and you check the website or whatever, they do have, like, for the 40-mile herd up north, they'll just out of the blue shut it down.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Okay, well, that's good then.
Yeah. So they are monitoring the herds, but how accurate it is, I don't know.
Okay. Oh, I was going to ask before we got away from the marten, I was going to ask you what your favorite bait was.
My favorite bait, I do a lot of duck hunting in the fall. I love duck hunting. I've been duck hunting my whole life, and so I save all my duck carcasses, and I wrap them up in a garbage bag and stick them by the wood stove and let them get good and taint, and chop them up into baseball-sized pieces, and I use those.
That works good for you.
It works great. I do that, and I'll do beaver, and then if whatever kind of lure I'm using.
Do you have a favorite lure?
I use a handful of different kinds. Like, again, I like to do a variety. I don't stick to just one kind. I like Hellfire, and I like there's a place out of Anchorage called Batum 907, and they make a lot of good lures too. Polecat Hoax and Dalkey are really good lures for marten that I use, and it seems to do a good job for me.
Well, that's cool. How big is trapping in Alaska?
It's getting bigger, a lot bigger. I'd say it's pretty popular in the rural places of Alaska, not so much like in Anchorage. I know that the Antis are wreaking havoc over there with the Denali Park and want to expand the safety boundaries and all the crazy stuff that they try to do. But I'd say for the most part, the majority of the people understand and accept trapping.
I mean, there isn't a world where trapping doesn't exist. Now, whether or not there are trappers doing it or there are government contractors being paid to do it, there just isn't a world where it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm. And what I say to everybody, trapping, it's not a hobby. It's not recreation. Trapping is a lifestyle.
Actually, I go further than that. It's a life. It's not a lifestyle. It's my life. And
absolutely.
People wonder how you can do this stuff. And I try to explain to them that we are so very necessary. I mean, if you don't have trappers around, things like coyotes, especially coyotes and wolves and that kind of stuff, the havoc they would wreak. I've said this, I don't know how many times on every podcast it seems like, but we ship over 40,000 coyotes out of Alberta every year.
How many?
40,000. Over 40,000 go to auction, and it's like if we weren't doing that, if the trappers weren't doing that for free, do you know what it would cost to have that done?
Unimaginable.
Yeah.
I can't even fathom what that would be.
Well, I know that, you know, when they try and control the muskrats over in Holland, you know, in
Mhm.
the Netherlands, they took muskrats over there. I forget what for food or something. But anyway, they kill 400,000 of them a year, and it costs $80 million.
Wow,
Yeah,
that is insane.
yeah, yeah. So you can imagine what it and because they're, of course, they're tree huggers. There, you know, their repute is so strong and everything. What do they do with all those muskrats? They incinerate them. Now, as a muskrat trapper who doesn't want to see another 400,000 skins on the market,
Yeah, right.
I'm okay. But at some point, you'd think they'd choke to death on their own irony, wouldn't you?
You'd think so. I mean, that's a lot of waste. That's a
Huge
lot
waste.
of waste.
Well,
Tons of waste.
there's even worse. The gray-legged goose. This is getting a little bit away from trapping, but the gray-legged goose
Uh-huh.
is huge over there. And of course, like any goose, you know, we have a problem with Canadian geese in Canada. You know,
Mhm.
they pollute stuff, and you get you know, E. coli. The bacteria is so high that, you know, waters are toxic and that kind of stuff. Well, that happens in you know, all of um, the causeways and all that they have in Holland, but it's with the gray-legged goose. So there's like with any wild bird, they have a molting season where most of them can't fly. So they
Mhm.
take and this this fellow I was talking to, he contacted me over the internet, and we discussed this, and he takes and they start herding them. They use dogs and everything, and of course they just herd along. Well, yeah, they herd along. You know, they keep swimming to keep ahead of the dogs and everything, and
Yeah.
they just herd them along until pretty soon they run out of water, and then they have like chicken wire fences, and in they go, and they put them in these impoundments, and then they into these trailers, and then they gas them. Well, when it
Wow.
was found out that he was gassing them, well, it was the end of the world because of, you know, the Nazi
Yeah.
death camps and all that. It was just
Yeah.
awful. And then when they discovered he was killing them with carbon dioxide, but he was killing 80,000 of them a year.
That's crazy.
And once again, they were getting incinerated. Now
Wow.
that is I can understand people who don't want to eat muskrat, but I mean, a goose.
Yeah. I mean, Goose for the most part, I love Goose. Goose is great.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of waste.
It's a huge amount of waste. It's huge.
Well, can you imagine what would happen if like they ban, let's say for example, if they ban like coyote trapping, like we were talking about, how much would it cost to you know trap or to get the money from the fur and all that good junk? Imagine what would happen if coyotes in general just weren't trapped, and
Oh,
what they would do to everything else. I mean, coyotes are a serious predator.
well, and
People, you know, they look at them like, oh well, they're not as bad as wolves. I think they're right up there with wolves
they're
as far as their
smarter.
predation.
They're smarter than wolves.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like I mean, way smarter than wolves. But here's the thing: when you start getting large cities like Calgary and Edmonton are both well over 1 million people now, and you're getting these, and they're of course both they're built on big river valleys and that kind of stuff. So you have a lot of urban coyotes, and
Yeah.
you end up with a situation where these coyotes are extremely good at what they're doing, and now we have, you know, people are worried about their dogs getting drug off or their kids getting drug off, all that kind of stuff. So now we're to the point where we have to use, you know, lethal techniques on coyotes in these cities. It's not talked about. Nobody goes out and, you know, when they let out the contractor, there's no talk about, you know, the fact that it's going to be lethal and that. But you can't
Mhm.
capture something and move it somewhere. I mean, everything's already got animals in it, especially coyotes. It's not like they're rare.
Coyotes are everywhere. They're going to be one of the last things on this planet, I think.
Well, it used to be
As versatile as they are.
I mean, everybody talks about the success of the white-tailed deer and how they've moved. And in my lifetime, the white-tailed deer showed up in where I live in Alberta. In my lifetime. Hey folks, Rich from Trapping Inc. TV here. And we all have our idea of the perfect morning. You know what I'm talking about. For me, the perfect morning starts with the aroma and flavor of freshly brewed Old Smokes coffee. Studies have shown that just the smell of fresh coffee can boost brain activity. No kidding. Well, that's certainly no secret to me. I can barely talk before that first cup. Just ask Sandy. I'm a dark roast man, and Old Smokes Coffee's darkest roast, Stout Maple, is what gets my day in gear. Extra dark, it's strong, aromatic, and smooth. It gets me revved up for whatever the day throws at me. Old Smokes roast their coffee over wood fires, the old-fashioned way. Wood roasting takes more time, much longer than modern hot air roasting. Slow roasting over wood takes the bitter out of the bean and imparts a heavenly taste and aroma from the wood smoke. Old Smokes makes a roast perfect for each person. There are 5 roasts, from light to extra dark, each roasted over a different wood for a unique flavor. Did you know the darker the roast, the lower the caffeine content? It's true. Caffeine is a volatile oil that evaporates with roasting. The lightest roast has the most caffeine, and the darkest roasts have the most flavor. Right now, you can order from their online store and use our promo code RICH. That's RICH. And get 10% off your entire order. Pretty simple. Just go to www.oldsmokescoffee.com. That's OLE smokescoffee.com and use the promo code RICH. That is promo code RICH for 10% off your entire order. And now let's get to today's show. And it's the same thing with coyotes. Like coyotes have become so successful, and they are survivors. Yeah, there'll be coyotes, cockroaches, and rabbits after the bomb goes off.
Right. There's truth about that, no doubt.
Let's talk about your YouTube channel.
Okay.
How do people find it?
So it's the Alaskan Viking on YouTube. You can't miss it. And then if you have Instagram, it's the same thing, the Alaskan Viking. I started it about 2015, just kind of playing around, really not doing much with it. And then last year, I really decided to ramp it up and dove into it more and seeing what I'm capable of doing, and actually putting effort into making videos. And it's, man, I'm having a blast. That's all I can say is this is awesome, and I love doing it. So
where did the name come from?
That I owe all that to my wife. I was trying to come up with, because let's face it, Matt Willie's not an exciting name. It's it's not. Let's face it. It's that's what it is. Okay, so I was like, well, I'm trying to think of something kind of catchy, and so I was batting names around, and by my family history, I am Norwegian and Swedish and Eastern European and all that good junk. And so she's like, well, what about Alaskan Viking? I was like, I think you're onto something.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
And so it stuck, and it's all her.
It was the same thing coming up with Trapping Inc., right? And my wife and I must have wrote down 4,000 names. And finally, I think we were actually going to the trap line, and out of the blue, I turned to her and I said, Trapping Inc. And it was like, it captured what we wanted, like, of course, I mean, because it's trapping, but the ink part about, they incorporated the, a little bit of the business side, a little bit of the realities.
Everything. I mean, yeah, you showcase top to bottom. I mean, I don't think there's anything you leave out,
Try not.
And I will tell you that every time that you do any kind of segment in your shop or your garage, I'm insanely jealous. Just clear the air. I'm putting it out there. Every time I see your shop, I'm like, mine doesn't look like that at all. Mine looks like a bomb went off, and I've got borax everywhere.
That's the rest of it. This is just one little piece of one wall that you're looking at. And sometimes it takes me 3 days to get that one little piece of the wall to look like that. I got a new, though. I actually built a set in there this year. Well, I fixed up the walls and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's going to look different this year for season 7. But I know what you mean when it comes to the videos, and we get a lot of requests for videos. That some of them are really hard. And some of them surprise the heck out of you. Like we have these pull traps. I don't have. There's a pull trigger for a rat trap, right? The big rat trap, and we use them for weasels. And that is like something that people are constantly asking me about. They're, where do you get them? And that, and the old fellow that used to make them, I think, has died, or he's quit making them or whatever. So now I'm building a video on making those things. I just can't believe the number of people that are interested in that. What kind of questions do you get?
Most of mine are just have to deal with mostly wolves, and I think lynx trapping, and a little bit of marten trapping, but most of it, I did one video of trapping marten 101, and I went through just a handful of sets, and I stated in that video when I made it, there's literally 101 ways to do the same thing with trapping marten.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different, little tweaks here that, everybody does. And I believe that, what makes you a good trapper is being versatile and knowing the more the more efficient and the better trapper you are. And so it's about adapting different techniques to what works for you. And so I just showcased, a handful of different marten sets. But I get a lot of videos just of people, well, how do you catch lynx? What kind of set do you use? And can you do a video on how to build a cubby? And there again, there's a whole, I mean, you could use anything from guide sticks to pens to, we could be here all day.
I know. Some people build a little building with a roof on it. I've even got some out on my trap line from, I don't know, from how many years ago, probably in the 50s or whatever. But it's even got a peaked roof on it. You know what I mean?
No, I've got them. Yep. And there's some that every year that, that's just for whatever reason, that spot where that cubby's at is a great spot. And so every year I just throw more logs on it.
Yeah.
And it looks like a castle.
Yeah.
I mean, this cat really wants to go in there.
It is amazing. But I think for most people, see if you agree with me on this. I have a big, there's a huge disbelief. People think that you have some secret so that the animals don't smell what you're doing. And I tell them that you're never going to fool those animals, and that for most of them, smell means nothing. The one animal that smell does mean something to is the wolf, and that's steel. Mm-hmm. Means something to them. The rest of them, bush coyotes, steel means something to them. But these country coyotes I've got on my home quarter section here, they crawl under a dozen barbed wire fences a day. The smell of steel means nothing to them.
Yeah, they don't fear it.
I think that for the most part, most people overthink things.
I tell people religiously, don't overthink things. Keep it stupid, keep it simple.
Yeah.
And if for whatever reason a cat doesn't go into your set, cat didn't want to go into your set. Yeah. That's all it was. I mean, he wasn't interested for whatever reason. He could have been. He wasn't hungry. He didn't see it. There was no eye appeal. I mean, there's a laundry list of why he didn't go in there, but it's not like you're doing something wrong per se. He just didn't want to go in.
Yeah, well, and that's something that folks like you and I understand, because we have so many encounters every season. But mm-hmm. when somebody's having one or two encounters and they walk in and walk away, and and that's their cat or their coyote or whatever, and they've got a name for it and everything, it's hard on them. Where it's like I caught my biggest fisher the other day here. It was 16 pounds 4 ounces, and people PM me and say, did you know it was there? My trap line's 144 square miles. I'd be lying to say I knew it was there. You know what I mean?
I've been targeting him for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish we had Fisher up here where I'm at. I really do. They intrigue me. They really do intrigue me. And one of these days I'm gonna go to a place where there's Fisher and I'm gonna trap them.
They're easier than marten. They're aggressive. Oh, they're aggressive.
Now, what's their fur like? Like, is it soft like marten, or is it coarse?
It's coarser than marten. It's soft. It would be coarser than coyote on average too, but it's soft. But just about the only use for it, or the major use for it, is for making Russian hats.
Really?
Yeah, and so that's where all of our fish should go, and the females are worth more than the males.
Really?
Oh yeah. I mean, when the market was up like 13, 14 in there, my males were bringing 160, 170. My females were 100 to 150 more
Wow.
each. You know, like I was
Wow.
getting like 318. I think was my top my top female. You know, she's
No,
tiny, but she's just silk, right?
wow. And
Yeah,
that's the difference between females and males is the males are coarser and the females are
yeah,
softer.
yeah, and of course the male's much larger
Yeah.
than the female is. You get a female that goes over 8.5 pounds. Like I weigh everything, so I for my area here, if I can look at it from 50 feet away, and if it looks like it weighs more than 8 pounds, then I'm pretty sure it's a male. You know, sometimes you get
Yeah.
a juvenile male. I had one this year that its tail was is about 4 inches long, 5 inches long. So at some point it got bitten and broke or whatever. And another big male, I caught three male. If you and it's a straight run on my trap line. Most of my
Mhm.
trap line is all through seismic and that kind of stuff, right? Seismic lines, so they're all straight. But from the first trap to the third trap would be not quite a mile. Like I mean, that's how far it is. And I've got three big mature. One was 14 pounds. The other two were over 12 pounds. You know, and they everybody talks about how those mature animals have such a large area in that. Well, we did a study here in Alberta on Wolverine, and we discovered then that we knew nothing about Wolverine. you
Man,
know,
Wolverine, they do the craziest stuff. I mean, for no reason, they'll go to the top of a mountain and drop down the other side just because they can.
yeah.
Really no rhyme or reason to what they do. They're going and they're going in that direction and that's what they're doing.
Once again, they're another animal that everybody overthinks on, because the most successful Wolverine killing guys that I know, they're either using milk crate with a 330 in it,
Hmm.
or they like that 330 in the front of a stucco wire cage,
Hmm.
a pen kind
Yeah.
of thing.
Yep.
And well, all it is that they are where there's lots of Wolverine,
Yep.
and they
That's it.
just 14, 15, 16 Wolverine in the winter kind of thing, right?
I don't know if I'd want to skin that many.
That is a lot of work, because if you're gonna, I mean, it's like if you get a good wolf, you got to do it feet and all, right?
Yeah,
And
you got the whole thing. I always do my wolves and my cats with the feet on,
I
just because
don't
it.
do, I mean, I do at least 22 lynx a year. And if there's a good one, I mean, if he's the right color, and maybe, I had a female I did last year, and she had 4 white feet, right? And,
Yeah.
the white socks up over her ankles and so that kind of stuff goes for taxidermy, but it is so hard for us to sell to taxidermy here.
Say my biggest clientele for most of my lynx and wolves are taxidermists.
Yeah. What is it like there? Can you just sell in the round, or raw, or dried, or
Um,
what?
you can go to the fur buyer with a whole wolf and sell it to him, and he'll take care of it. You're going to take a hit on the price, of course, because he's got to you just have to put time and effort into it. But most of my stuff, I skin it all myself, dry it, and of course sell it that way. But yeah, you can. I know people that will take in whole marten and just sell it in the round.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's very common down south in the lower 49 is they'll sell them in the round, or they'll sell them green skinned and that kind of stuff. What I mean is, here in Alberta, I can't sell a piece of fur until it's tanned.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not going to tan 22 lynx
Yeah,
in a year. You know what I mean? So a bunch of
yeah.
them just go to the fur market, and they do not want
They don't want feet
any
on them.
no feet on whatsoever.
No.
Do you get good money for your lynx there?
Yeah, not too bad. I average, last year I averaged about 125 bucks a lynx,
Yeah.
um, which wasn't too bad. This year it's not looking good. I've talked to several fur buyers and taxidermists, and from what they say, it's looking like 40 to 50 buck average if you go to the fur market or auction with it.
Nah, don't believe it. There are
Yeah, I
more
don't know.
fur buyers now. You see, in Alberta, it's all controlled by the government, and so you have to have a fur buyer's license and all that kind of stuff. And the only way I can sell something that isn't tanned is to somebody with a fur buyer's license.
Yeah.
Okay. And those they're all buying, and I mean they're all going to be shipping to the auction. I mean, they don't buy, but we went from when there was NAFA was up, the other big auction. We had NAFA and we had Fur Harvesters auction. So when we had those two major auctions, everything went there. There was only one other really notable fur buyer in the whole province of Alberta. You know, we're 4.5 million people, and we cover a fair chunk of land. But then since NAFA went down, I'll bet you there are a dozen major players, and GFW has a buyer in the province full time.
So you think them going down was a definite benefit for the fur market and different companies coming in?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, we've got selection in that, but what everybody's doing, it was like last year when you know, it was pretty easy to average $135 on your coyotes. Like, I mean, that would be an average from your high to your low, the total average. If you had, I don't know, I moved 60 or something like that, and it was like $135 was
That's a good price for a coyote.
But that's, I mean, we are. I'm just on the north end of the really good coyotes.
Yeah,
the best
you
are southern Alberta or southern Saskatchewan, right?
The pretty pale white ones.
That they're pale. Mine are a little more bushy, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, when the market's up, I get a good dollar. Anyway, I mean, everything was going to auction, and if a fur buyer is paying you $135, he's expecting to get 175 to 200 at auction. You know, because these fur buyers aren't buying because they have buyers on their own. GFW might, like Grunwald, they have buyers. You know, they're connected through China and Asia and that kind of stuff. So I would sit back, and I mean, there's good demand right now to the water fur, like muskrats and beavers, especially if you do beaver in the wintertime, and because that goes to the shearing market and the felting market, and that's paying good money right now. Castor's huge.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, what do you think, like, Martin are going to do in the future? You know, from what I was thinking was, because they had that huge die-off over in China where they killed off all those mink.
Yep.
You think that's going to bring up the price of Martin?
It could. The first place is going to show up is muskrat.
Muskrat.
And the reason being is that whenever a female, like when you're ranching mink, the female is worth the least amount. She's the smallest, and she's worth the least amount. But whenever she gets to be under $12 for that pelt, then our muskrat sales are dead, because they can get 2 or 3 out of her, and they use the fur, like, from the females and from the muskrats. It's one of the big trend, or a big fashion statement in Asia, and that is they will take a down coat and they will line the inside of it with like muskrat bellies, or mink bellies, but that means that those mink have to be worth, you know, up there in order for the muskrat to sell. Like when we were selling, you know, muskrat for $14-15 each in 13 and 14, big male mink were hitting $100.
Really?
You know, oh yeah, it was unsustainable. You knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But right now, with everybody sitting back, and all of a sudden you have all of these private buyers, and that, you know, they might have to sit on it a year or two. I know that. I mean, I'm pretty good. I know Mark Downey pretty well. He's the chairman or CEO for Fur Harvesters Auction, and like, he's just dying because he has a lineup that he can't even begin to handle, but he can't get nobody here. And nobody is going to buy that high-end fur without being able to look at it. Yeah. So when they had the online auctions, you know, the lynx didn't go well. Any of the bigger sizes of marten and that didn't go well. The western coyotes didn't sell, like 12% clearance. Yet they cleared 100% on the eastern coyotes with like a $70 average, $70 US average on eastern coyotes. But the thing is that they know what they look like. They're all the same, and they're going to get so many strips out of the hide, and that's it. That's not the high end stuff. Like a lot of people believe that the Canadian Canada Goose jackets. They have the coyote on them, and so a lot of people believe that's the major market. Canada Goose takes a lot of coyote, but all the high end coyote goes to Italy. Canada Goose doesn't touch the top end stuff, and those people can't get here, So I mean, they've already canceled the first auction of the year, and now we're hoping that the March one they'll allow them in. It's funny because we can go anywhere we want. I could come see you in Alaska, unless Alaska has rules, but I know I can go to Hawaii. My buddies are in Hawaii. I know I got buddies down hunting in Texas and that, but nobody can come here. Nobody can come into Canada, right?
That's crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. It's stupid is what it is. Although it is kind of funny because there's a lot of politicians that are getting caught going places for Christmases.
Right?
Yeah.
I saw that. They're telling everybody to stay home, and they're over in Italy or something. And you're like, wait a minute.
I find that funny as heck.
Yeah, that's pretty comical.
Yeah. So if you can, I would say I would ship coyote. I would ship any of the water fur, like the beaver. If you have good winter beaver and good muskrat, I would ship them. The castor, of course, gets sold private treaty, but right now Western number one is $110 US a pound.
Wow.
Yeah, that's great money.
That's good money.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden those you get 2 or 3 60-pound beaver, you got a pound of castor.
Yeah.
And if you're taking them through the ice, now that hide's worth $40 to $60. And then I have bear hunters in the spring, and it'll pay me $15 for the carcass. Although I use a lot for bait. I use a ton for bait. I get that all the time is people say, do you eat beaver? Well, no. And they say, well, why? You should eat what you kill. Well, I use it for bait. I use it on,
it doesn't go to waste.
No, it doesn't go to waste. So what I should eat beaver and then buy ribeye for baiting coyotes? Or what?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, let's get real. And I mean, when you skin your animals, some years, the worms and that are pretty big, and I did that big old fisher today, that 16-pound fisher. And I forget what they're called, but in the joints, they get those big, long, skinny worms.
Yeah. Is it?
Coon get it really bad. Fish and some fisher get it. I forget what the worm is called, but it's like like a white piece of thread squirming around there, and it's like, no way I'm eating that,
Slap it in the microwave, you'll be all right.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Rich here. Sandy and I are pleased at the rapid growth of our exclusive community, Trapping Inc. at locals.com. We created the community to connect more closely with our fans, friends, and supporters without the interference and censorship of social media companies. Because this community is subscriber exclusive, there is no censored photos, shadow banning, and deplatforming as happens on Twitter and Facebook. Trolls are non-existent, as not a one will spend a nickel and put their money where their mouth is to protest on a paid site. You know it. We are steadily moving all Trapping Inc. YouTube videos and podcasts as quickly as time and bandwidth allow. We're tickled and surprised to see how large of library we must move. As well, we are sharing articles on trapping and guns and shooting. Our new TV series, Married to the Hunt, videos are here too. Hours and hours of never before released to the internet hunting and fishing from around the world. TrappingInc.locals.com will be the exclusive home of all Trapping Inc. content from the past and into the future. What else is there to do? Well, there's a forum for everyone to post pictures on and interact. You can message us directly on TrappingInc.locals.com, as well as interact with all the other subscribers. These are all people with common interests. Get in here. This whole venture is about taking the Trapping Inc. TV community to the next level, building a community of shared interest and interacting with all of our friends. Who knows where we can go from here? Just go to locals.com and sign up for a free account. Then search for Trapping Inc. and subscribe for $5 a month. That's it. Go to locals.com to open a free account and then subscribe for $5 a month to Trapping Inc. Help us spread the truth about a way of life and the responsible, ethical management of the wild resources. trappinginc.locals.com. Now back to the show. Have you, what are you using for equipment for producing video?
So I use a Sony A6000 is my go-to camera, and then I've got a couple of GoPros that I use, and that's about it.
Okay. And you're editing on what?
The Adobe.
Oh, you use a Premiere Pro?
Yeah, I'm not real good at it. I got another one that I use, and I'm still kind of working the kinks out of Adobe. I'm not a computer person, so it takes me a little longer to learn these things.
I know.
But I really like the setup of Adobe and all the things you can do with it. And
yeah.
But 9 times out of 10, if I'm using Adobe, I lose half my footage and got to redo it all. I delete something and can't. Well, where'd it go? It was here a minute ago.
Are you on a Mac or are you on Windows?
Windows.
Okay. Learn Control Z.
Control Z.
Because that will reverse what you just did. If something disappeared, hit Control Z, it's back.
Just talk to it. Excuse me, computer, where did that go?
Yeah.
But the hardest thing I have is just keeping batteries from freezing up, especially in the wintertime. Now,
yeah.
This year's been kind of a struggle for me for making trapping videos. I produced a bunch of waterfowl hunting videos, but all of November, my trap line that's on the military property was shut down due to training.
Oh.
So our season starts November 1st. And so all of November, it was closed. Well, I was like, well, it's not a big deal. I'll hit my marten line first. And then when this opens up in December, I'll hit this. Well, there was hardly any marten to speak of. I think I've got like 4 or 5 right now.
Really?
And I'm shutting everything down. I'm gonna stop trapping it. It's just, it needs to sit for a bit and recoup or do its thing. And so my canine and cats and wolves and all that good stuff, it was kind of a rush to get things set up. And so I didn't have time to really get my camera out and, okay, we're going to film this and do this. And how do you build this? And it was just, I went in and I set traps for 24 hours straight. And that's all I did for 24 hours. Well, by the time that 24 hours is up, I might be going back down my trap line and I'm already gathering fur. So now I have fur to skin.
Yeah.
And so now that's taking more time up from setting traps. And it's just this big snowball and vicious circle of, I only have like not even a third of my trap line set up. And I'm already at like 12 cats, 6 coyotes, 3 marten, or three fox and a wolf. And I just started.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm going to be producing a lot of trapping videos this year, but I'll knock out a few, I'm sure. But it was like from the get-go, I was getting my butt kicked.
And then they introduced a TV series in there, man.
Right?
You think you're insane now? Just wait. You were talking about.
I can only imagine.
You were talking about keeping your batteries warm, but here's the glory side of TV. I have to pack an enormous amount of batteries, and especially if you're gone for 12 hours in a day,
mm-hmm.
There's only one place you can count on those batteries being warm.
Yep.
Like
you're gonna say.
So if you're ever out with me and you see my batteries and they're actually in the camera bag or whatever, don't touch them. Because they're dead now and you don't want to touch them because
you don't want those ones.
Yeah.
You don't want those ones.
That's right.
Bring your own batteries.
Yeah. I kept them warm long enough. Yeah. When you talk about you do a lot of foot holding then for wolf and coyote?
Yeah, more so for coyotes than I do wolves. Again, for coyotes, I use big bait sets, primarily in sections of my trap line where the wolves aren't the most active. Because if I'm trapping wolves, that's all I want to trap is wolves. That's all I want to focus on.
Yeah.
You have a coyote bouncing around in it. You'll never see that pack of wolves again. They're just like, nope, something's happening here, and they take off. So I like to just focus on wolves when I trap wolves. And so I have coyote sets and big bait sets, lots of snares. And then again, on the outskirts, I'll do like flat sets projection sets or like a trench set. If I got them coming through different spots where, I can't hang a snare or it's more conducive for a foothold, then I'll use a foothold.
Okay. Do you have a favorite trap?
I do. I like the Bridger number threes.
Number
And
threes.
and what I've done is they're modified. Um, just in case. I'm always, planning for the worst case scenario, the biggest animal that could possibly step in it. I've had wolves step in them and it grab them, but it's just not strong enough to hold the wolf, of course. It's
Base
not built
plate
for
gives
that.
up on you is what
So
happens.
I've got them welded up. I've got the jaws welded, so there's no way they're coming out of there. And I haven't yet caught a wolf with them, but I'm fairly confident they're four coils. I'm fairly confident that if he did get his foot in there, I think it would hold him and stand a lot better chance than it would have before.
It's your base plate that'll give up on you unless you reinforce your base plate.
Yeah, no, it's all reinforced and welded
Okay.
on the bottom,
Because we
and
in here in Canada we get the number 3 Bridger Canadian, and what that means, it's
Mhm.
offset, and which a lot of people don't understand, that offset makes that trap stronger, hold better, because it closes further. Your
Yeah.
springs are up higher, and it is closed further, and they've got a lot less leverage. But a friend of mine was, you've probably seen the episode with Robert, and he was using them for lynx, and he had a
Mhm.
lynx and along comes the wolves, and the wolves got a hold of the lynx, and they drug him around. By the time they were done, that the base plate on that number 3 Bridger was just a hoop. Like, I mean, it was. I don't know
Yeah.
whether he ever got that trap working again or not. Because
Yeah.
wolf's got a lot of power. A
They
lot
got
of
a
power.
lot of power. Yep, I've got springs on them as well, just to help from the foot damage and keep them from hurting themselves.
Yeah, well, I mean, the whole idea behind the rubber jaws, which I don't think works here because on average it's too cold, so they're
Yes,
just
I've never used the rubber jaws.
well, you wouldn't want to use them on wolves because wolves chew, right?
Yeah,
And so they ruin that rubber jaw every time.
yeah,
Bridger makes the brawn with rubber
hmm,
jaws, and they make
yep,
another number 9, I think, with rubber jaws as well, for the Canadian market. But I mean, they get chewed on, and in the cold, that rubber is just as hard as steel, and I mean,
yep,
it cuts off that blood flow, which then they'll
mhm,
chew on their foot.
yep.
So
Start chomping.
yeah, I don't agree with that, but I mean, I sure like the offsets in that. They work well.
I
Um,
love offset jaws. Yeah,
and I'm also a huge fan of the Belial foot snare.
I have seen them, heard about them, and I'm very curious about them.
Well, people, I'm actually doing that's another video that we got a bunch of questions about. Of course, we get all kinds of questions. Everybody wants to see, the an extreme or the new Duke or whatever, and
Yeah,
those things are. I'll do them eventually. It'll be kind of a review in that, but we're just remaking the same bed over and over and over there again, right?
yep,
When you have something that's truly new, I mean, you have all these offset jaws, and then you have something that that um, Rudy makes the Red Wolf, and it has polycarbonate jaws.
really.
Yeah, and it don't work. I don't think it works very well, but I mean, it's something different, right? The Belial foot snare, and they make it in 3 sizes: a 6, an 8, and a 12, and it snares them by the foot, and then that's all that's there. Lots of times when you have a big, like an Alaskan number 9, that's a
Hmm.
substantial trap. If you
It's a
don't
big boy.
put the shock absorber on, you don't have 2-3 swivels on it there, that weight of that trap can do a lot of damage all by itself.
Hmm.
It's like a 7-pound trap.
It's a heavy trap.
I've got a Harris in here, a centerfire, beautiful trap, but it's just about 7 pounds as well. And so you have to have all those things in order to so that trap works properly and doesn't do damage. With the foot snare, when you set it up properly, it goes off, the animal jumps in the air, that 2-pound carrier system falls off, and now it's just got this snare around his foot. That's it.
Huh.
And the snare is just,
I wonder what that would do for chewing. Would they just immediately start going at their foot?
I don't know. I haven't had that happen. I have here where I use foot snares on my my coyotes. I have a 24-hour check, and None of them have ever chewed out. The number 6 has 3/32 cable. The number 8 has 1/8 cable. I've never had any wolf chew out of 1/8 cable on a snare.
Yeah.
And I use the number 6, of course, on lynx out on the trap line, and there I have a 48-hour check, but lynx don't chew on anything, and lynx teeth are round. I mean, they can't chew. So, like they don't have those cutting edges like a wolf does, right?
Yeah. Like a wolf and coyote.
It's neat because the way the snare is set up with it, the cam on it, the lock on it, it's not a cam lock. It's a kind of like non-micro, like a slim lock. It's kind of like a slim lock, but it only tightens so far and then it loosens. So they continue to have that. So
it keeps the blood flow to it. It's just restrained them. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that definitely keep them from chewing as long as it doesn't freeze up.
Yeah.
That's when they start chewing, when their foot freezes.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what happens. So I don't know. Like, I mean, I've got 4 wolves over the last 3 years with it. Like setting footholds for wolves is not easy in my country because there's just a couple packs and they cover a huge area. And when they come through, you if you're dealing with, people don't understand though, you're dealing with 3 foot of snow and then it could drift. That all makes it tough for doing things like footholding.
And it's almost like the snow we have here is really dry snow. It's really it's not a wet snow, and so any agitation to the snow itself, it just sets up like concrete.
Yeah.
And so as soon as that snow moves and gets agitated, it sets up, and you might have an inch of pack on your trap, and you could do the Mississippi 2-step on that thing. It ain't gonna fire.
That's the other. That was exactly the thing that started me with the Belial foot snare, because it has these wire round jaws, and they come up through the snow like you wouldn't believe, and it's like 50% faster jaw speed than a number 3 Bridger.
Really?
Well, yeah, because
that's just moving.
Well, because there's nothing there. Like I think the Bridger is at 60 foot per second or something like that jaw speed, and the Belial's at 87.
Wow.
I mean, it's huge, a huge difference, right?
I'm definitely gonna have to check those out. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and they make them in stainless steel, which is another, why traps aren't done in stainless steel? Because I mean, what else are you gonna do? I mean, then you boil off the smell and you're done. There's no reason to dip them or anything else. It's stainless steel.
Yeah. Everybody talks about dyeing your traps and coloring your traps. I don't think the animals care what color it is. All my traps are buried anyway, so you could have them hot pink, it doesn't matter. Yeah. So stainless steel, it doesn't matter if it's shiny, it's under the snow.
Exactly. And I mean, you're not fooling them anyway. I mean, that was the biggest lesson I've learned with, when I deal with people, and I deal with certain guys that have, they have their animal, right? They have specialists, a wolverine specialist, a beaver specialist, a wolf specialist. And the wolf guy, like, I mean, he's killed over 400 now. And he said to me, he says, they know that that they're sharing this bait with you. He says, now, if somebody else comes with you, he says, I'd have them stay on your machine. But he says, you can walk around, do whatever you want. He says, pee in the snow, don't matter. They know that they're sharing this with you.
They know you're there. And is that Morley Smith?
Yeah, it's Morley, exactly. Yeah.
That was that episode. What was it, like season 3? I think it was with Morley Smith, that wolf trapping.
Yeah.
That was a great episode. That was extremely informative.
It was huge, and I mean, I've killed a bunch of wolves out there since, but I mean, they've been diseased or you just about all of them are diseased. It's either been shoulder lice or mange. It's been terrible. Like, I mean, I can't believe for as few wolves as around there, but anything that happens in a wolf pack, I mean, because it's a pack, as soon as one of them gets it, they all got it.
They all got it.
Yeah.
And we've lucked out up here. We don't have, in the interior where I'm at, we don't have mange or any of that stuff yet.
Yeah. Well, the shoulder lice is actually from the domesticated dog. It's dog lice is what it is. Yeah. And it's, My coyotes here, I've got 3 that are bad this year so far, which is way better than it was. Like last year, I had 3 that were good, you know. It wasn't quite that bad, but yeah, I've only had 3 that were noticeable this year, so that's good. That's an improvement. That's another thing that you do when you're managing stuff is that you're taking those animals out, because the disease ones are the very first. The very first.
They're the first to go. They're the desperate, and they're the first ones to make a mistake.
Well, how many of your buddies have told you this? I was driving down the road. There's a wolf standing out there, and I shot him in the field. He says, "Just stood there." Heck, I walked up, and then it was covered in mange. You want to say, well, you know why it stood there in the field? Because it was sick, right?
It was please help me.
That is one cruel disease. Mange is one cruel disease.
I've seen pictures, man. It bald wolves, and just it does a number on them.
Their flesh turns gray and black eventually.
Yeah.
It's so the cold. They usually lose the hair on their butt end or their tail in that first, and it's just the most awful, sad thing. You just can't kill them quick enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And people don't understand that when trappers talking about killing stuff. But well, we should wrap this up. I really appreciate you taking the time. Tell everybody once again where they can find you.
So YouTube, The Alaskan Viking, Instagram, The Alaskan Viking, and also on Facebook, The Alaskan Viking.
That's perfect.
It's simple, it's easy, it's catchy, it's got a good ring to it.
There you go. Yeah, you get the beard and everything to go with it.
Right?
Yeah,
I fit the part.
Exactly.
Well, I tell you what, Rich, I definitely appreciate you having me on here. It was an awesome time talking with you, and hopefully we get to do this again sometime. And Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, it's coming up here, closer here than you. You're 2 hours on me, but yeah, I appreciate you taking the time, and we will certainly do this again. And for everybody out there, looks like we haven't had a single blip on this, so this will be in video as well as audio. And we appreciate you sticking around, seeing us, and maybe we'll see you down the trail.